So our brother DMX has recently passed away at the age of 50, or as other people may know him, Dark Man X. Now DMX was a brother that really stood out in hip hop. You know, I remember when that brother first came on the scene. We're going to talk about this brother's life. You know, our brother went through a lot of things in his life, and we want to chronicle that. Now, our brother DMX was born Earl Simmons on December 18th, 1970 in Mount Vernon, New York. Now, his childhood, was paved with a lot of, rough things going on. Now, he's the son of Arnett Simmons and Joe Barker that grew up in Yonkers, New York in a single parent household with his two sisters. Now, DMX, it developed several allergies and bronchial asthma at an early age. As a result, he was sick a lot, and his mom would have to take him to the, emergency room. It said in 2003 autobiography, Earl, it say he recalled many scary nights not being able to breathe. And as we know, when it comes to things like asthma, sometimes the foods we're eating also triggers that too. And unfortunately, in a lot of our, neighborhoods in the black community, we aren't blessed with some of the best foods out there. Now, they said at a young age, he was abused by his mother and her boyfriends. Now, he said his grandmother, Mary Ella Holloway, provided the nurturing care he desperately sought. And DMX was her oldest grandchild. In her eyes, he could do no wrong. Now, he said the would-be rapper would be a smart kid in elementary school. He said teachers recognized that, but behavioral problems in class and chaos at home would ultimately result in the 10-year-old being sent to the Julia Dickman Andrews Children's Home for 18 months. Now, understand, what DMX went through wasn't his fault, and kids act out when they're being abused by their, mother and her boyfriends. And that's one thing I can't stand, when an old sorry, good-for-nothing woman allows some man to come in and abuse their child. That's so despicable to me. But this is what this brother had went through. So they said when he returned to Yonkers, they said DMX roamed the streets. It said they likened it to stray dogs. They say he would befriend just the dogs in the neighborhood. They say he was, infatuated with canines. They dogs were loyal. They say he learned. They offered him some protection in the streets. Now they said at 14, his mother sent her son away to the Children's Village, a juvenile asylum, and said that's where his passion for hip hop music formulated. So she sent her son away after the life of her abusing her son and her boyfriends. Now, I say he would rhyme and beatbox and say for his peers at the reform home, and said he was allowed to go home in Yonkers for a visit. It was then he met 27-year-old Brooklyn rapper named Reddy Ron. Now, I say with his acumen for beatboxing and Ron's rap skills, the two formed the group, but Simmons, needed an alias. So DMX was the name, and say of the Beat Machine kids were using. And since it said he felt he was nice with the beats, he said he took that. Now that's what DMX explained. He said I was, strong, powerful. He said I like the three letters. He said and thought it would be cool to make them stand for different things. He said so when I went back to the Children's Village, he said after my home visit, he said I was no longer Earl Simmons or even Crazy Earl. He said I was DMX. He said DMX, the beatbox enforcer. So they say the two, they say will travel the neighborhoods to battle other MCs. They say whenever, they could. And I say later, Ron introduced, DMX when he was 14 years old to hard drugs. Now, unfortunately, they say X smoked a Wooly. They say, which is a cocaine-laced marijuana joint that Ron gave him. And according to his 2010 Behind the Music documentary, he said he credits that moment as the origin of his lifelong addiction to narcotics. He said that's where it all started. He said Ron awoke a beast as the misguided Beast Smith, and say Wood commonly abused the drug from then on. Now, see, that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, you grown doggone man, you got this little young kid around you, and you going to sit up here and get that kid that at the time period, and it affected him. Now, it said shortly after the introduction of crack cocaine, said X landed behind bars again for robbery. Still in his teens, initially was sent to a minimum security facility in Rochester, New York, but he escaped and made it back to Yonkers. He said his grandmother would later convince him to turn himself in. He said so he did, and he was sent to McCormick Juvenile Institution. And said inside his cell, he wrote raps and created a new moniker with the three letters he used, DMX, the beatbox enforcer, to become DMX the Great. It's an aggressive undertaking like MC is ready to take in on all challengers. So the problems with DMX started way back to that dude. And that's the mess up part. I said upon his release, he continued rapping. I said at parties, clubs, I said wherever. It said he could get his hands on a microphone. And say he would meet his first wife, Earl Simmons, in 1989. And said the couple had their first child, Xavier, 2 years later. And said now DMX penchant for petty crimes and street life had him going back and forth to prison. And so that's where he wrote his first prayer and where he believes God spoke to him. He said with his new outlook on life, he said he revitalized and reimagined, he said, his rap career when he initially met the Dean family. Now, he said siblings it said D and Chauvin Dean recruited DMX to their hip-hop management company, Rough Riders Entertainment, and DMX and Rough Riders were a match made in heaven. Now, DMX, he was the brand behind Rough Riders more than anything. They said at first that record labels were reluctant to offer brash braggadocious and battle rappers who barked the deal. Said, but his friend Irv Gotti believed in him, and Uncle Ray Copeland managed him at the time and armed him with Rough Riders and upstart with nephew Kasim Swiss Beats Dean. So, everybody knows who Swiss Beats is. That brother's legendary. All of the music that he's made. He's married to Alicia Keys right now. So it said in 92, X signed a deal with Columbia Records, Rough House Imprint, and released Born Loser and Make a Move. His notoriety grown, but his addictions, wouldn't subside until his grandmother was diagnosed with bone cancer in 1994. Now, her illness inspired him for the first time to go completely sober. He said, no matter how hard we are or tough we are, he said, we need to be somebody's baby. He said, DMX said, holding back tears on behind the music. Now, Grandma Holloway passed away and sent the, rapper spiraling downward once again. As he resorted to drugs. Now, I said 3 years later, Irv Gotti, got a job as an A&R at Def Jam. And on his first day, he recommended signing DMX. He said to the label president Lear Cohen. Now, if you know anybody by the name of Lear Cohen, study him. I'm not gonna go no further than that for the sake of this video. Now he took it back to the streets. He said that he was going to be the idea behind wanting to market and promote me. He said DMX recalled in his biography, said Lear said all the right things with a new lucrative contract from Def Jam. Said Legend was unleashed. He said his first major label single was Get At Me Dog, and which that was, really put him out there. He said then he had a video shot by Hype Williams. Now, Hype Williams was like the dude back in the day. If Hype Williams did your video, your video is gonna look good. I mean, he was the dude. Now I say from 98 to 2003, DMX ruled hip hop, radio, and dominated Billboard charts. He had massive hits like Party Up, which I remember that. Slippin', X Gonna Give It To You, which many people remember that. And then, he was on many different magazines. He eventually started going to different movies. Everyone definitely remember him from Romeo Must Die, the one with Aaliyah. And, now both of them, aren't here anymore. And, Aaliyah definitely, left before her time. Now, the brother was on the Hard Knock Life tour and the Anger Management tours. They said he had 5 consecutive #1 albums. He says Dark and Hell Is Hot, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, the 6-time platinum. And then there was X. They said the Great Depression and Grand Champs. They said no other rapper has achieved this yet. I said according to what they're saying about DMX. Now they said that this brother end up, having more issues later in the 2000s. We had run-ins with the law. I mean, he had issues with taxes. I mean, so many different things his brother had issues with. But like I say, his bad streak started 2 issues that we can look at. His mama abusing him and her boyfriends, and that dude introducing him to drugs. If you look way back in his life, even though he did all of that, right? Now, he sold about 74 million records over his legendary career. He actually had a record that he was working on that was about to come out. Now, this brother did have 15 children, they say, but something else came out. Now, it wouldn't be me if I wouldn't tell y'all what else a family member said to another publication. Now, and I'm gonna have to say this a certain way because the YouTube censors are real, funny about this topic I'm about to talk about. So one of his family members came out, and they were saying about his, he had a heart attack, and they were saying that he overdosed on drugs, and that's what it was. Well, some family members had said something quite different than that. Okay, and the family member said that everyone in the news keeps saying that DMX had a drug overdose. He said, how do they know? He said, I'm in the family and no doctor told me about no overdose. This is what they're saying here. Now, they say, yes, he had drug issues in the past, but nobody knows that he had an OD. He says OD. He says it's effed up. He said because it's being reported like that. Now, they said that this is what happened. The grieving kin explained that he took, that thing that they keep trying to tell black people, why aren't we doing it? Why it kind of goes with something that goes along with something about in the past called Tuskegee. Okay, now you know what I'm talking about. So it said after that, they said he had a heart attack. He said, I'm not saying that did it. He said, but he never had a heart attack before. That's what a family member said. Now, they said that when they had opened up that thing to 50-year-old and older, he went on ahead and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I want to go on tour and all that and perform again. I want to be, safe out here. And family member said that. So, and there's a lot of people that kind of went that route So with that being said, I definitely, grieve for his children, his 15 children. It's not going to be another DMX. It's not. That brother brought energy to his music every time. I have not even seen him not bring energy like that. Like, it's no rapper today that has no energy like that. None. I mean, you can tell his stuff come from the streets. You know what I'm saying? And, you had this old sorry, despicable reporter with the New York Post while this man laying in the hospital trying to fight for his life. She going to post something talking about, oh, look, all the homes DMX lost when, he was, in his career. Who the hell care about losing a freaking home? You buy a home, you move out of a home, you lose a home, people lose cars, people lose all kinds of things in life. What the hell they got? A chick was so scared. She deleted her Twitter, disappeared off her online when she got that smoke from the, the fan base, in which they should have gave her the smoke for that because that was utterly disrespectful. But, what I would say is this. DMX definitely going to be missed. All the greats of hip hop, a lot of them are passing away right now. Black Rob is in the hospital. I saw that video, and I just hope somebody could eventually pick up that real hip hop torch, not this manufactured hip hop they got today where everybody's sounding the same. Because understand, hip hop is our creation. It's not something that we should just let it go or have it so dumbed down or have people that's not even authentic to the culture just to come in. You know what I'm saying? Like, DMX represents authentic hip hop, not some of the crap I'm seeing today. That's not authentic hip hop. That's manufactured crap. And that's something that black Americans created, and we should never let that go. And don't let nobody tell you that hip hop isn't, important. Don't talk about those sort of things. You know what? Matter of fact, I would tell you this. If you come to this channel telling me hip hop isn't important, or what we talk about here isn't important, talk about other things, I'm telling you right now, that's going to get you blocked. I want anybody to come and say, why are you talking about that? That's not important. You're gone. I'm not going to even argue with you no more. I used to tell you, well, look, if you want to hear more serious things, or what you deem as serious, go to our news channel. We do that for you all day. But I'm done with that. I'm sick of it. They have an about section to this channel. You can go look at the about section and see what it's about. If you don't like that sort of thing, then go to our serious news stuff and you watch news and politics all day. It's more to black people than just news and politics. Hip hop is something that we created. We should not let that go. And what's happening in Hollywood to black people, we need to talk about that. What's happening, just craziness on the internet that's related to us or something about that. We need to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't be just a one track person. See, I'm a Gemini. We can do multiple things. You know, I hate it for some of you who can only do one thing, but that's just not me. I can do multiple things. But to the family DMX, you know, may, you know, y'all, you know, grieve and go through that. 'Cause like I said, that's a hard thing to do, and may that brother rest in power. If you have any moments that about DMX that you remember, or maybe some places you were at where you heard, you know, his songs, or maybe you met brother, let us know in the comments.